Earlier today, Jermell, Charlo, Browne, Castano, Jaron Boots, Ennis, Custio, Clayton, and the other fighters on the undercard for this weekend's May the 14th fight. It's May the 11th right now, 2022. This fight was supposed to take place originally back at the end of 2021, right? But then whatever scheduling reasons, whatever, the fight didn't happen. But then it was supposed to happen on March the 19th with Tim Tszyu and Terrell Goucher as the chief supporter on the undercard, and Browne Castano suffered a bicep injury. Now here we are, 3 days before the fight. The media workouts were today. The final press conference is tomorrow. We're going to be here streaming that live. What is that? May the 12th, 2022. I believe it's at 4 p.m. Eastern. I don't have the fight schedule right here in front of me. But let's talk about it. Hey, listen, is Jermell Charlo pound for pound? I've been lobbying for him to be pound for pound for, I believe, the better part of a year. But the question is, now this is ESPN's pound for pound rankings. Now, from my understanding, there is a panel, but for the most part, I believe this pound for pound list is put together by Mike Coppinger, formerly of The Athletic. Then before that, I believe he's with the LA Times. Basically, what I'm saying is, listen, there's different types of media members depending on how you view them as credible. But in my personal opinion, Mike Coppinger's list ain't no better than any of you guys. It's just that he has the ESPN name behind you. That's no disrespect to him, but pound for pound lists are what you make it and what you want to be, what you want it to be. Everyone has their different criterias. Now, a pound for pound list does open up debates, and they're good to talk about, and create interest and you know trash talking, to say the least. But I do feel that Charlo, especially when you look at his resume, let's go take a look here. 34 1 1, 18 KOs. Browne Castano, that ended in a draw. We're going to talk about who I think is going to win the rematch. Jason Rosario, Tony Harrison in the rematch. Jorge Cota, Tony Harrison, in which I felt he won this fight, the first fight. Austin Trout, who was on his last legs. Erickson Lubin, who just got dismantled by Sebastian Fundora in a WBC interim championship a few weeks ago, about a month or so ago, right? Charles Hatley, John Jackson. He was losing his John Jackson fight, as you can see by the scorecards. Joaquim Alcine, Venice Monterosi, and that was a high-quality fight for that time. Gabriel Rosado. So, even guys like Dennis Douglin and Deshaun Johnson. I guess what I'm saying is these are names that I know. Francisco Santana. Names that kind of like ring bells. I guess what I'm saying is when you look overall, like at this list, right? Loma doesn't have a belt. Spence resume overall, even despite the layoffs, is still better than Crawford's. Bivol is there, but I don't want to talk about this list because it's not for me to agree to, but I do feel that especially after Saturday's fight, the winner of this should be on the pound for pound list. I think that Undisputed should get unanimously on the list. My personal opinion, people may not agree, but if you win an undisputed fight, and you have all the belts, I think that should guarantee you a spot on the list. 17-0-2 with 12 KOs, 32 years old. This guy is good. 5'7.5" he's listed at. My concern is that bicep and if it's really fully healed. You see what I'm saying? Well, if he'll be able to have the tenacity, and pressure that he had the first fight. Patrick Teixeira, Erisland de Lara. I thought he won this Lara fight. Michelle Sorrell. Those are the credible names on the resume that we know of. In a rematch, who do you think has the better chance of adjusting? I think that overall, Jermell, if you noticed in the first fight, what was he doing? Stay off the ropes. Stay off the ropes. And I believe Derek James said it at one point in time in the fight where, something along the lines of everything he's getting, you're giving it to him. pretty much like, like he's only doing this because you're letting him do it. And then later on in the fight, what happened? Castano got buzzed. Looking at the 154th division, pound division, and we've been talking about it a lot, especially since me and my colleague Big J have been talking about Tim Tszyu a lot. But I don't want to talk about Tim Tszyu anymore. But we do have to talk about the situation. On the media call a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, I had the very last question. My name was called to ask Charlo Castano a question. Then something happened where the fighter started talking about other shit, and I didn't get a chance in the end of the call. But my question was going to be, I don't remember exactly how I worded it, but I was going to ask Jermell, how does he feel at the weight, and how long does he plan on staying at the weight? Because I wasn't going to ask him, does he plan on moving up anytime, but I wanted to try to trick him up a little bit to get the question out, but get the answer that would have answered a lot of questions also, because the question is, I know I said the question a lot, but, we want to know, is the champion, whoever wins, are you going to reign or are you going to move up? Because there's a bit of a chain effect going on where if Charlo wins, right, he has to fight Bakhram Murtazaliev. That is it. There is no more, if him and Castano were to do it again a third time, and hopefully there's no draw this time, no matter what, they have to fight Bakhram Murtazaliev. He's been waiting for his IBF shot for at least 3 step-aside agreements, where he's been fighting on the undercards in untelevised fights, waiting for his shot, pretty much collecting free money, against a real low-level competition. Then next in line would be WBO mandatory Tim Tszyu, who beat Terrell Goucher. He's probably going to be ringside. His brother earlier today, no more than 13 hours ago, got a win, Nikita Tszyu, to improve to, what is he, 2-0 now? Sebastian Fundora is the WBC interim champion. You don't see him listed there, but we're going to get him up there. He's the WBC interim champion. And he's the next mandatory. So basically, here's how the line works. Murtazaliev, Tszyu, and then Fundora. Now, meanwhile, Tszyu and Fundora is going to have to keep busy. You have Tony Harrison out there. Overall, not to get too long-winded, but the 154-pound division is kind of stacked right now, especially since if we get an undisputed fight against Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford later on this year, what it's looking like we're going to get, then the winner of that fight has been really talking about, unless it's a 2-fight deal, has been like, listen, they're trying to get both of them have been talking about going to 154. Errol Spence, wants to go to 154, but him and Jermell Charlo were trained by Derek James, who's on his way to being Coach of the Year. Hopefully he doesn't get the Coach of the Year curse, but, he's on his way to being, Coach of the Year, and I think he can get it even if Spence does lose to Terrence Crawford. I think he can get it off of just Charlo beating Castano and Spence beating Ugas, just off of that alone. But, what I'm saying is this. In order for, let's say in a perfect world of Derek James, Charlo, and Errol Spence. Charlo beats Castano, right? He moves up. Ain't no money at 160, by the way. We're finding that out with Jermell Charlo. Especially, we don't know what's going on with Golovkin. He's the only real money in the division. Charlo has already been flirting 168 pounds. So you would have Charlo beat Castano, meaning Jermell. Jermell vacate, move up to 160, start collecting belts up there, tries to become undisputed. You have Jamal move up to 168. Spence moves up to 154. But what if Charlo doesn't want to move up? And he would be undisputed. I believe he's already went on the record multiple times to say that he has no interest in fighting Jermell Charlo. Like, they're friends. They're in the same camp. They accompany each other to fights. Like, they're in support of each other. Now, Browne Castano, what if he wins? Will he stay at the 100? I think there's a safer bet that Castano will stay at 154 than Charlo. But we haven't got a straight answer. Hopefully this week, we can get an answer from Charlo about what he wants to do in the division, and if he has his eyes set on 160 pounds. Because right now, 154 is going to be the money division if Spence and Crawford win or lose, both move up. So for him to be moved to 160, unless he gets Golovkin, ain't no money at 160. And for fans, well, Andrade's already gone. You know, unless they try to revisit Jaime Munguia, but realistically, the real money's at 154. Now, I'm concerned about Castano. I'm concerned about that bicep injury. You know, on if, you know, he had to take this fight because, you know, he didn't want it to be pushed back any longer. And, you know, fighters want paydays and don't want the layoff. And also, it's too many belts on the line. I hope that it's not a case of him rushing himself back. You know, we should be able to see that in the fight. Here, let me pull up the particulars on the fight. By the way, just like Tank Davis, Jermell is one of my top fighters. Me and Jamal, there's just bad blood. You know, I don't know what I did wrong. You know, I asked a question that he didn't, you know, really agree with. And, you know, the blood. And he thought I was Team Hatley. I have to tell you guys a story about how I showed up to the, I believe it was Porter Berto, and it was Charlo versus Hatley press conference late. So it was no room to sit down. And just so happens, as I'm getting there, I have like this like light blue hoodie on, and I got kind of like green and everything, but basically I looked like I was Team Hatley, but I wasn't Team Hatley. I've never been Team Hatley. So I leave, and I'm standing over there on their side with all the Team Hatley while they're doing jabs back, you know, verbal jabs back at Charlo team. So I'm sitting there like, oh shit, oh shit. So then when everything all break up, I go to try to go talk to Jamal Charlo, and he's talking to Radio Raheem, so he see me coming up, and he like, no more interviews. And he turned his back on me. He like, he does this thing. Like when he look at me, and like he spit the ground, like, no, he didn't do that part. I'm just being, you know, dramatic. But basically he did do that part where he looked at me like, you know, and a lot of media, they be really scared of them motherfuckers. I'm not even joking. They be really scared of the Charlos. And I'm sitting there like, bro, what did I do? You know? And then, oh, don't get me started when he sent me to hell at the Charlo Korobov press conference. I've been to multiple Charlo fights. I've been to Charlo versus Korobov, Charlo versus Lubin, Charlo versus Hatley, and I think it was like one more. I've been to Charlo fights. You know, a heavy fan and supporter. I've interviewed both of them before, in the past, before the bad blood. And then, you know, this shit hit the fan, man. You know, I'm still kind of hurt about that. Like, I got feelings. I'm 38 years old. You know, I'm in touch with my, you know, emotions and shit. Like, that shit hurt. I'm like, but, bro, like, you know? But anyway, I thought I was going to have to shoot my way out. Just joking. You got to be careful these days. Don't want to get canceled. But anyway, let's go look at the judges here. Let's see here. Oh, it's taking place in the StubHub in Carson. It's not in LA. It is a fight in LA. I believe that's Ramirez. Dignity Health Sports. Basically the StubHub Center. I'm always going to call it the Home Depot or the StubHub Center. This Dignity Health shit. No. So you got Glenn Feldman from Connecticut, Oklahoma's David Sutherland, and in California, Zachary Young. By the way, Castano was talking real spicy. And they had a great translator on the media call that they had a few weeks ago. I'm going to put the link down below, and I'm going to link it at the top of the comments. If you didn't see this media call, normally, sometimes them joints be boring, especially when you have a Spanish-speaking fighter and a translator that don't really keep up. But this translator was the man. You know, I'm talking about like he had like, you know, like cojones, like, you know, big balls, you know? But yeah, Castano was like, look, you know, like, this was in your hometown. What did he say? Some shit. You know, at the end of the day, they was cheering for me in your hometown. You talking all this shit. I'm gonna beat you the fuck up when I see you. The last part was a little, you know, paraphrases. But anyway, he was talking real spicy, and it was nice. It was nice. You know, he definitely got some swag. But yeah, let's see. As you can remember, the two judges, Nevada's Tim Cheetah, 114, and Jersey Steve Weisfeld, they were both judges for Canelo versus Bivol, by the way, this last week. For the first fight, scored at a draw, and 114-113 for Castano. The third judge scored at 117-111 for Charlo. Okay, so Tim Cheetah, 114-114. Weisfeld, 114-113 for Castano. And Puerto Rico's Nelson Vasquez oddly scored 9 rounds for Charlo, 117-111. Yeah, that included me, Jack. That included me, Jack. CompuBox credited Castano for landing only 22 more punches overall, 173 of 576 to 151 of 533. Castano connected with more power punches, 164 of 400 to 98 of 246. Charlo landed more jabs, 53 of 287 to 9 of 186. I mean, I think that's, you know, Charlo is overall the better technically sound fighter, but if he keeps the fight in the middle of the ring, you know, because one thing about Castano is he is a high volume pressure fighter. And, you know, when you're in a top level fight, yes, your punch stats are going to go down a little bit, or your output, but overall, you know, I think that if Charlo keeps it in the middle of the ring, he should be good. You know, it could be, you know, a 115, you know, 113 type of deal, you know, but I don't see Castano getting stopped. I see Charlo being able to win, but then we don't know, man, because that Castano, you know, he's something else. And one thing we can say about Charlo, though, is that he is battle tested. You know, he's been on the end of a bad decision, in my opinion. You know, and then he's got that and then he's got that draw. You know, and he avenged his fight against Tony Harrison. So we'll see. You know, more tools in the shed. T-Street Controversy with Fight V360. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. We'll be here for the weigh-in and the final press conference, post-fight press conference, all that jazz. Thanks for watching. Like the video. See you guys later.